Welcome to St Bartholomew's Church. I've headed back into England today, and I know I say it every time, but this just might be the best church I've ever visited. It's an absolutely incredible church, and I can't wait to show you around. It's a lovely spring day, and the birds are very noisy as we walk past the ruins of the old church cross. It's a Grade 1 listed building, and it's packed with really interesting things to see. None more so than the ancient yew tree that's in the graveyard. This has been dated at over 1500 years old, but I would say it's much older than that. It's a really unique tree, and the way it's hollowed out, they put a bench inside. But firstly, we're going to go inside and have a look around, and we'll come back to this tree later on. The church is very large, especially considering how remote we are here. And the first thing I noticed as I walked in was how bright it was and how the atmosphere felt really nice. I was lucky enough to come inside and there was no one else here. Often you'll walk into these old churches and it'll be really cold and quite damp. And having visited hundreds of churches now, I think this is the main reason some churches feel quite spooky. It's all to do with the atmosphere and the energy of the actual room itself. It's a 13th century church, and I believe the official date is 1220. We'll head up straight towards the altar and check out the east window. There's 6 stained glass windows inside the church, all done by the highly regarded Victorian designer Charles Kemp. This one is considered to be one of the finest east windows that the Kemp studio ever made. The decorative reredos below was made by a Norman and Burt to complement this really beautiful window. This is the Kyrle chapel, and it's my favourite part of the church. In the middle, you'll find this splendid alabaster tomb of Sir John Kyrle and his wife, Siblia. Sir John died in 1660 and his wife in 1637. He served as the High Sheriff of the county. Underneath his feet is the family crest of the hedgehog, although it looks more like a porcupine to me. And underneath his wife's feet is the bear's paw, which is her original family crest. I've seen quite a few of these alabaster monuments, normally in cathedrals, and they're often damaged and got graffiti on them. These two are in absolute perfect condition. It's really nice to see. The chapel has lots of other monuments on the wall, but there's just far too many to show you in this small video. This is my personal favourite window of the church, and it's called The Resurrection, made in 1889. Absolutely stunning. This depicts scenes from the accounts of the resurrection and its aftermath. In the corner of the chapel, you'll find another tomb, and this is of Thomas Wallin and his wife Isabella. Thomas's will is one of the earliest written in English. In it, he asked to be buried in this church, for his land to be sold, and of the proceeds, 1/3 to be used to fund the building of the steeple of St Bartholomew's Church, the rest to be devoted to good works. Most of his wealth went to the poor people of the neighbourhood. What an inspirational man. This is exactly what I'm planning when my time's up on this earth. Heading to the next window, which was made in 1878. This is called the Annunciation. The Annunciation is, according to the Gospel of Luke, the announcement made by the Archangel Gabriel to Mary that she would conceive and bear a son through a virgin birth and become the mother of Jesus Christ. In my coming videos, I'm going to start to add some of the meanings behind some of the symbols you find in these churches. So here's a good one. When you see the dove like this flying downwards, it represents the Holy Spirit. Now, you'll often see this in stained glass windows and also on a lot of gravestones. On the north side of the chancel, you'll find the tomb of Blanche Mortimer, also known as Lady Grandison. She was the wife of Sir Peter Grandison and daughter of the first Earl of March. She died in 1347. This tomb was carefully restored between 2011 and 2014. Now, this was a new thing for me. I didn't even realise there was an alarm on this effigy, and there's a couple in this church. It's a really good idea. My hand must have gone across the wire here, and above it there's a camera, and it spoke out to me saying to attention, I'm being recorded or whatever. Now, this is a great way of protecting these monuments. It allows you to still get up close and personal and see the actual effigies and stuff, because often in these churches they'll section it off totally so you can't go anywhere near it. So I'd personally like to see a lot more of these alarms in the churches I visit, but I guess it all comes down to money. This window, made in 1878, is simply called Nativity. Going back to that alarm, it's actually testimony to this church of how peaceful it is, because if I heard that noise in a different church, I would have probably jumped out of my skin, and I hardly batted an eyelid. The organ was built by Messrs Nicholson of Worcester in 1878, and it was restored in 2006. I had to show you this memorial because I love it when there's skulls inside churches. This is in memory of a John Skinner who died in 1764, age 83. Also, his first wife Anne, who died in 1704, aged just 27 years old. So 60 years before the husband died. This was erected by Elizabeth, their only daughter, who died in 1784, aged 82. And it looks like the wings are missing, which is a real shame. The pulpit was made in 1867, and it has some rather unusual carvings behind it. I didn't notice at the time, but one of them is of a rather unusual green man. So if you do come and visit the church, take a better look at that. On the wall of the south aisle, you'll find this rather large cross or crucifixion. It was carved in 1910. It's not original to this church. It came from a different one that was damaged badly in World War II. Later, it was moved here to St Bartholomew's. Heading over to the north aisle, this window is called Visitation from 1922. The Virgin Mary visits her cousin Elizabeth, who was also with child. Elizabeth's baby was believed to be John the Baptist, and this comes from Luke chapter 1, verses 39 to 56. There's a fine alabaster memorial on the wall for those who fell in the Great Wars. And later on, I'm going to walk you around the graveyard because there's quite a few Commonwealth graves there. So we'll have a look at them. Here is a rather rare oak effigy of a Walter de Hellion from 1360. He is 6 foot 4 inches tall, has long hair and a beard. Cross-legged effigies of civilians are very rare, and this is one of only two in Herefordshire. The other is at Clifford near Hay-on-Wye. It was restored and recoloured back in 1972. This is another effigy that's protected by that alarm system. The Norman tub font is older than the church and was made about 1150. It is the sole remaining relic of the Norman church that was probably once here. The oak cover with a shy horse was made by Clifford White in 1974. The west window, made in 1882, comprises of Peter, Paul, John the Baptist, Stephen, Augustine, Christopher, Edward the Confessor, and Thomas of Hereford. And I'll leave it up to you to figure out which one is which. Back outside, we'll have a closer look at this amazing ancient yew tree. Now, there's paperwork inside the church that reckon it's 1520 years old. That's quite an exact date. I'm not sure where they came to this conclusion. It was measured professionally back in April 2006, and the measurement was around 9.4 metres in girth. Now, by my calculations, that would make it over 2,000 years old. And I've done a video all about that and how I measure these trees. Now, there does seem to be a bit of a conspiracy regarding these trees and churches. They want you to believe that the church was here first and then they planted the trees. But I don't believe that. I believe that it was a pagan thing and they built these churches on pagan grounds. But that's for a different video. Let's have a closer look at some of the Commonwealth graves I found. This is Private Leonard Hope of the Herefordshire Regiment, who died on the 24th of February 1917, aged 26. Gone but not forgotten. This next one's an interesting one. He clearly died from the effects of war but hasn't got a Commonwealth grave, so I'm going to do some more homework on that to find out what the criteria is. This one reads, in loving memory of Lawrence Arthur, youngest son of A&S Brooks, who died from the effects of disease contracted on active service, June the 13th, 1919, aged 21. The next one is Private Joshua 40, who was born in 1878. He was in the Herefordshire Regiment too, and he died the 21st of February 1918, aged 39. Now, being a private at 39 just goes to show what they always say. A war is started by career soldiers, but it's finished by teachers, engineers and accountants. In other words, the normal people. This one is Private William James Freer from the Welsh Regiment. Now, he died the 7th of December 1915, aged just 19. It's quite amazing just how many war graves you find walking around, little hamlets and small villages. The sad thing is, we never seem to learn, and it looks like we're marching towards World War III right now. The last one I found was Private Lewis Simmons, who was from the South Wales borders, and he died the 13th of November 1918, and I couldn't find what age he was. That's the end of the tour for today. I hope you really enjoyed it. I'm sorry it ended in a bit of a somber mood. If you can do me a favour and like and subscribe and all that good stuff, you'll really help the channel. I'm going to leave you now with some aerial footage and I will see you all very soon.